Have you ever wondered why tennis balls come in airtight containers? It's a quirk that sets them apart from other sports equipment. You won't find baseballs or basketballs sold in pressurized pop-top containers now, will you? This peculiarity of tennis balls isn't just for show. In fact, it's a matter of shelf life and pressure. You see, tennis balls have a hollow rubber core covered in felt, filled with either air or gas, and pressurized to about 27 pounds per square inch. That's roughly 12 psi more than the normal air pressure at sea level. If these balls were sold loose, they'd quickly lose their internal pressure, but sealing them in an airtight canister helps maintain that pressure. So the sealed cans force the balls to maintain their internal pressure, making them as bouncy upon opening as they were at the time of manufacturing. But does this mean balls start to lose their bounce as soon as they're opened? Absolutely, and here's why. The rubber used to make tennis balls isn't airtight. This means that air can escape from inside the ball to the outside. Now you might think, well, that can't happen too quickly, right? But here's the kicker. The process of air escaping speeds up once the ball is put into play. Every time the ball is whacked by a racket or bounces off the court, more air is forced out. Now, let's talk about the lifespan of a tennis ball. For an average player, a tennis ball stays in prime condition for around 2 weeks. Yes, you heard it right, only 2 weeks. In a professional setting, it's a different ball game altogether. The balls may be switched out much more frequently, with new cans being opened every 7 to 9 games. So, for an average player, a tennis ball remains in prime condition for around 2 weeks. But when did this practice of pressure packing tennis balls begin, you may ask? Well, let's take a trip down memory lane all the way back to the Roaring '20s. It was a time of jazz, flappers, and most importantly for our story, the birth of pressure-packed tennis balls. Yes, the idea to keep these bouncy orbs at their peak performance by sealing them within a pressurized container was conceived in the 1920s. The pioneers of this innovative approach were none other than the sporting goods giants Wilson and Pennsylvania, later known as Penn. They began promoting an airtight cardboard tube for their tennis balls. A tube, you might wonder? Yes, indeed. The tennis balls were stacked one on top of the other, sealed in a cylindrical container, ensuring that they retained their pressure and bounce. The Pennsylvania company was particularly proud of this innovation. Their marketing boasted, "Pressure packing, exclusive with Pennsylvania balls, represents the greatest improvement made in tennis balls since the inception of the game." And they weren't wrong. However, these early pressurized containers weren't as user-friendly as the ones we're familiar with today. They were opened with a key, sardine style. Imagine having to carry around a key just to pop open a can of tennis balls. And once you opened the can, there was no way to reseal it. As the decades rolled on, the design evolved. The cardboard gave way to metal, providing a sturdier and more durable container, but the real game-changer came in the year 1972. It was in this year that Penn introduced a revolutionary design upgrade, the soda-style pop-top with a plastic lid. This made accessing the balls easier than ever and allowed for the can to be resealed, slowing down the loss of pressure once opened. Interestingly, this design transformation coincided with another major change in tennis balls. 1972 was also the year when the balls were coloured optic yellow, a shift from the traditional white to improve visibility for television broadcasts. And there you have it, the evolution of pressure-packed tennis balls, from key-opened cardboard tubes to the easy pop-top cans we know today. The more modern soda-style pop-top with a plastic lid was introduced by Penn in 1972, around the same time the balls were coloured optic yellow for better visibility on television. So, can a sealed can of tennis balls last for years? You might think that the answer is a resounding yes, given the airtight nature of their packaging. But here's where things get a little tricky. Even in their pressurized homes, tennis balls are not immune to the passage of time. Air, as it turns out, is quite a crafty character and finds ways to escape from the most secure of containers. Over time, the pressure inside the can begins to equalize with the external atmosphere. This slowly but surely deflates the balls, reducing their bounce. This is why, when you stumble upon an old can of tennis balls in the attic or basement, you might find that their performance is not quite up to par. They might seem fine at first glance, but when it comes to that crucial bounce, they might just fall short. So an old canister discovered in your basement may not have the bounce you're looking for. But have you ever considered the environmental impact of tennis balls? Well, it's time we talk about the elephant in the room, the waste problem in tennis. This is a sport that we love, a sport that brings joy to millions, yet we cannot ignore the significant environmental footprint that it leaves behind. Let's take a closer look. A tennis ball, once taken out of its pressurized container, starts losing its bounce. For an average player, this means the ball stays in prime condition for just about 2 weeks. In professional settings, the frequency of changing balls is even higher, with new cans being opened every 7 to 9 games. Now think about the sheer number of tennis balls used globally. Consider the number of tennis players, both amateur and professional, the number of tennis matches, tournaments and practice sessions. All those balls eventually lose their bounce, and what happens then? They become waste. Each year, an astonishing number of tennis balls end up in landfills. According to a story by the Associated Press in 2023, the number is as high as 330 million. That's right, 330 million tennis balls are discarded every single year. Each of these balls takes hundreds of years to decompose, contributing to the ever-growing waste problem we face globally. This is a serious issue that needs addressing. And it's not just about the tennis balls, it's about the pressurized containers they come in too. These are not typically recyclable and hence add to the pile of non-biodegradable waste. So, what's the solution? Well, that's a question with no easy answers. But it's a conversation we need to start having. Companies, players and fans alike need to come together to find sustainable solutions. Perhaps it's designing balls that last longer, or developing eco-friendly packaging. Or maybe it's about creating effective recycling programs for used tennis balls. The game of tennis has a significant waste issue, with 330 million balls ending up in landfills each year. It's time we take a swing at this problem, because every step we take towards sustainability, no